Well, I'm Bob Bell. I'm sitting here with Grant Carrot, and we're talking about his book, Scugog Carrying Place, A Frontier Pathway. Now, I was reading in the book here, one of the earlier settlements, I guess you'd call it, was the cabin de plume. Now, I guess that doesn't mean cabin with feathers. What did that mean?
It's a French term. I think it's pronounced something, and I probably will make it sound odd, cabane de plomb, a cabin of lead or for lead, suggesting it might have been some kind of trading house.
So that would have been the Indians trading with the early settlers?
Yes, but the earliest trader we know was Jean-Baptiste Rousseau, and he was here at least in 1791, and we suspect a few years earlier.
No, he wasn't at the cabin de plume. He was in Oshawa, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a chapter in there trying to figure out what cabane was. And it turns out that it appears in late 17th century French maps before there were any real fur traders on Lake Ontario, because that's where it's found on the map.
So it's probably more of an Indian settlement, or...
It might have been, because the first map, it appears in that period when the Iroquois came out for a brief period of time and had about 7 or 8 settlements scattered along the north part shore of Lake Ontario.
Yep.
And it's smack in the middle between others. So we suspect that French name is just a misnomer from the French map makers, especially a fellow named Franklin, who liked to change native places into French names. For what reason, I'm not sure, and that's where we got cabane, and we still don't know what it really was.
Yep. So then from there, Rousseau actually had a cabin in Oshawa, and later on, very close to where his cabin was, Wilson was the first white settler.
Yeah, that progression happened with Rousseau about a century after we first hear of the first cabane on the French maps. And then he was here in the 1790s before he moved off further west, ended up at the Humber River in Toronto, down at Ancaster near Hamilton. But when he was here, he kind of, I guess, pioneered a little cabin down there. And the first settler came about 2 or 3 years after Rousseau left for the Humber, ended up wintering that first season in this abandoned cabin.
Yep. Now I noticed the subtitle of the book is The Frontier, or A Frontier Pathway. So Wilson arrived, and there was this trail going up the Scugog Carrying Place. So the settlers started to follow Wilson. Did they start off by going up the path? The books...
Pretty much so. A lot of the settlement going north first followed that trail, that Carrying Place north. And Wilson built it right at the south end of the trail. And then one concession north, about a decade later, the Farewell brothers settled along the trail again, but north of Wilson. And you got that progression where settlers over time would go further north.
Yeah, that was some of my early relatives were later on, but in further north, because I guess the original land along the lake would have been taken, and they gradually migrated down deeper. Yeah,
that would have been the main reason for going north, is precisely that. Now,
how much, I know it says in the book, but what was the way of obtaining ownership of the land at that time?
When Wilson came, all you had to do is clear so many acres, and it was yours after so many years. Afterwards, as the original owners got it, acquired it, they would sell it, subdivide it, resell it.
Right. And so gradually moving up towards Port Perry and beyond?
Yes.
Yeah. And I understand there was even a native settlement in Port Perry.
There was at one time, yes, and in the 1820s, one of the native Methodist missionaries would go up the trail to see that band up at Lake Scugog. Yeah.
Now, was that on the island where the reserve is now?
No, it's actually pretty much dead center where the downtown of Port Perry is today.
Well, The book really does a great job of pointing out the changes and how settlement happened in this area. I really want to thank you for writing it. It's called The Scugog Carrying Place, A Frontier Pathway. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.